YouTube. Apparently, Legends of Tomorrow's pilot part 1 will literally have a part 2 video coming from me. And my voice actually sounds slightly better. I'm fucking happy about that. But anyway, going back from what I last said about, what's his face? Boardman! Professor Boardman turns out to be the son of Kendra and Carter from one of their past lives. Like I said in the previous video, that would be a shocker for me. Like, some old person, like whether an old man or old woman, comes up in front of me and be like, you look exactly like my mother, and then shows a picture, it literally is me, and I'll be like, holy crap, I'm a reincarnated version of that man's mother, or that woman's mother, you know? I would freak out. I don't know about you guys. You guys could freak out with me, if you ever went through that. I don't know. But anyway, another thing in that episode I thought was pretty funny is the fact that, Rip Hunter pretty much says that, what you call it? He asked Stein, hang on, wait. He pretty much asked Ray, Stein, Carter, and Kendra to meet with Professor Boardman, while Mick, Leonard, and Sarah, he didn't need their expertise at that moment, so they're left on the ship. And voluntarily, Jax says he wants to stay on the ship because he's still mad at, you know, Dr. Stein for drugging him, right? And while the geniuses are all meeting the professor, Sarah, Snart, and Mick, they're like, we need a drink. So they end up in a bar, and they end up in a bar scuffle, which I think is hilariously funny. And I think it's kind of funny how, like, Mick and Snart, like, you can tell that he's starting to somewhat like Sarah. Hang on. But anyway, like, sorry about that. I had a little mini coughing fit again. But, during that whole thing, you know, Palmer, Stein, Hunter, Carter, and Kendra talking to Boardman, while Snart, Mick, and Sarah having a bar rumble. That leaves poor Jax all by himself on the ship with Gideon. And while that's all happening, a time-traveling bounty hunter shows up out of nowhere, and apparently this time-traveling bounty hunter's name is Kronos. He basically attacks Rip's ship with poor Jax on it, and because, you know, Jax is being attacked and he's connected to Stein, Stein pretty much feels it, and he's like, oh my god, something's happening. So the team ends up regrouping at the ship, and pretty much, you know, so does the bar team. The triple threat bar team also ends up there. And I literally love what Snart says, because, you know, they're all there except for, you know, Snart, Mick, and Sarah. They show up a little later, but the moment they show up, freaking Snart's like, we leave to get one damn drink, and you guys are in a fight with Boba Fett. The fact that he made a Star Wars reference made me crack up so badly. I was like, Leonard Snart, guys. Leonard Snart. But anyway, they're all regrouping. They're fighting this guy, Kronos. Unfortunately, you know, they managed to escape, but not before poor Professor Boardman, who, when they're about to meet Boardman in this episode, they find out that in history that he was going to die in 24 hours before they met him. And Kendra, you know, finding out this is her son and that he's gonna die of unknown reason. They don't know how he's gonna die, but apparently they find out, you know, he's gonna die in 24 hours. They don't know how, or they just don't know how he's gonna die. They just know 24 hours. Kendra finds out this is her son. She's like, no, I want to protect him. So they pretty much have an argument with Rip Hunter, like, no, I'm bringing my son. They manage to escape Kronos, get on the ship and escape. But unfortunately, Professor Boardman, who they brought with them, ends up wounded and unfortunately dies on the ship. which must be so heartbreaking right now because Kendra's like, she feels horrible mainly because she's like, my son probably could have died like peacefully in his sleep in 24 hours, but no, he ends up getting shot and killed by a freaking time bounty hunter, you know what I mean? And she feels so guilty about it. I don't blame her, honestly, because no one knows what Professor Boardman was going to die of. They just know that he was going to die in 24 hours. They don't even know if he was going to, like Kendra said, die peacefully in his sleep. They didn't know. So, yeah, I would probably feel just as guilty, I'm not gonna lie. I'd be like, instead of getting shot at and killed, no, he could have died in his sleep. Yeah. I don't blame Kendra for feeling really guilty about that. But anyway, the attack on the ship pretty much forces Rip Hunter to reveal that Kronos is a time-traveling bounty hunter that was sent to come after him because apparently Rip Hunter stole the time machine against the wishes of the Time Council, which means in the beginning of the episode when we see Rip Hunter, trying to appeal to the Time Council saying, let me go back in time with the team to stop Vandal Savage and change time, we find out that the Time Council obviously did not grant him what he wanted. They said, no, you can't go back in time with a team to change history, even if it is to stop Vandal Savage. And also the fact that we find out that Rip steals his ship, and we also find out that the reason why he's so adamant to stopping Vandal is because that Vandal Savage killed his wife and child, and we find out who the wife and child is from the beginning, because in the beginning, when we see Vandal Savage taking over the world, he ends up killing this woman who's protecting her son, and we find out this little kid's name is Jonas right before Vandal kills him, and then we find out that Jonas actually is the child of Rip Hunter. And also, we also find out that Rip only chose those certain team members, Sarah, Ray, Jack, Stein, Mick, Snart, Carter, and Kendra, because apparently, according to history, they don't make a dent at all in history. They're not important in history. So, in a way, he got the expendable people to go with him. And, but it's very discouraging for the team, but when the team find out about the Rip's family, his wife and child being murdered by Savage, and everything else was true about time being, like, later on in time, Vandal Savage takes over the world, it's like ultra destruction. The team pretty much opts to continue on with the mission, despite the fact that they were only picked because they're expendable, basically. And, I don't know, it's highly, sorry. Anyway, I found this very interesting. It seemed kind of semi-rushed. I understand that, you gotta get in there, and we all know that all these characters in the team were already introduced, both in Arrow and The Flash. But, gathering them, gathering each of them and making them a team seemed kind of rushed to me. I don't know, they could have, taken their time a little bit in gathering, the legends. But, I don't know, it's... I don't know what else to say, honestly. All I really could say, it was an amazing show. I loved it. I love how they incorporated why Rip Hunter is so adamant to getting Vandal Savage. It's not only because Vandal Savage took over the world and it's in chaos and stuff. There was a little bit of a secret agenda with Rip Hunter, which really wasn't a bad thing. It's you kind of sympathize with Rip Hunter, He's kind of in a way a Time Lord, and according to Rip Hunter, nobody in the Time Council is supposed to have any attachments. they're not supposed to fall in love, and they're not supposed to have a family. They're supposed to be totally free of those obligations. You know what I mean? And because of that, Rip also ends up, he does end up getting married. He does end up having a family. And you really do sympathize with him because despite the whole thing, he wanted to fall in love. He clearly loved his wife. He clearly loved his kid. And quite frankly, you can't help falling in love sometimes, even no matter what your job is, you know what I mean? I've seen this before, I don't remember where, shoot. I know I heard this before where it was for Jedis. There you go. Star Wars, the whole Jedi thing in the beginning, with Anakin Skywalker time. It was forbidden to have, like, that kind of stuff, You couldn't fall in love, you couldn't get married, you couldn't have a family, basically. I mean, they found their Jedis by finding Force-sensitive kids around the galaxy. They didn't get the kids by, like, their own children. They grabbed random children from around the galaxy that were Force-sensitive. And so, it's kind of like that. Rip Hunter was pretty much like a Jedi. He was pretty much like Anakin Skywalker, if you think about it. Like, Anakin Skywalker is a Jedi. He went into the Jedi Academy. Rip Hunter was part of the Time Council. They both ended up falling in love. They both ended up having a wife. Rip Hunter ended up having a son, and toward the end of episode 3, we saw that, Padme, which was Anakin's wife, gave birth to twins, Luke and Leia. So, it's basically the same little pathways, and Rip is getting revenge for the death of his wife and child. So, hopefully that doesn't turn him into the dark side. But anyway, so, I like how they incorporated Rip Hunter's story in this, and I like how they put, Oliver Queen and, Laurel Lance in this, mainly to be, like, guidance to Ray Palmer and Sarah Lance into joining the team. I love the comedy to it, especially with Jefferson Jackson with his relationship with Dr. Martin Stein, and I like that little I wouldn't say bond, but that little moment with Mick Rory and Martin Stein and Jefferson Jackson, you know what I mean? I thought that was really cute. I like the little slight bonding with Snart, Mick, and Sarah. I love the fact that we actually see that despite Carter and Kendra constantly reincarnating in their past lives, that at one point they actually did manage to have enough happy, free time to actually start a family in one of their past lives to the point where they actually had a child, which I thought was interesting. It's such a shame that Professor Boardman died, but it's cool that, he was the son of Kendra and Carter in one of their past lives. I thought that was pretty cool. And it was an interesting twist, finding out that Rip went against the Time Council, stole a time machine, basically all that, and the fact that he picked these certain people because they made no debt in history if they died. They're expendable. I thought that was an interesting twist. I just really wish that when it came to gathering them, the team members, I just kind of wish that they didn't rush it, you know what I mean? They more in detail to it. That's all I gotta say about it, honestly. And that is my part 2 to Legends of Tomorrow Pilot Part 1. No, I'm serious. The title literally says Pilot Part 1. I wish I could show you right now on the screen. It literally says Pilot Part 1. And apparently Episode 2 is Pilot Part 2. And this is my Part 2 to Pilot Part 1. I know it's confusing, but I can't wait for Pilot Part 2, which is Episode 2, which will be in January 28th. Legends of Tomorrow, guys, and Sarah Lance is the White Canary! Yes! Mwah! Thank you, DC, and thank you, CW, for bringing another amazing show to our lives. I love you, CW. Mwah. Bye.